elementary school. Which one do you, or you stay here?
I don't know where you're going. Okay, good.
Yo pensaba que esta junta era de 5 a 6 y media. Le dije, si traes la mañana a las 6 y media.
Oh, no.
Se le voy a llamar.
Okay. So I want to tell you, you had that article about you and your father and Father's Day.
Oh,
It was so sweet. Did you see that? Oh, it was very nice.
So, Team Elementary School, I just want y'all to know that was very thinly veiled aimed at y'all.
Oh, okay.
I read y'all's notes, right? And I feel like a lot of the conversation that's been happening kind of in here, I've only been in here for 1 week meeting, so correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't want to make any assumptions, but just based off your notes, has not necessarily been focused on needs, but focused on solutions, right? And that's a little bit putting the cart before the horse. Because when we think about the resources that we have with the $20 million and a building that is Wiley, what need are y'all addressing by having a conversation of 5 versus 6 elementary schools, which is not even a part of the charge, right? And I know that has come up several times, but it's not in our charge, which is why we broke up to K through 6, and we have a lot of data that says whether we can or can't, right? And when I talked to Katie, can I quote you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. When I talked to Katie very early on in this, and I said, what is feasible? She said, anything is feasible. We can do anything that we want to do, right? We can keep 6 elementary schools. We can go down to 5 elementary schools. I talked to Paul Pelosi. He says we have money to do whatever it is that we want to do. But I feel like this is a missed opportunity with this group because y'all haven't talked about what y'all need. And I know from when I looked at the dual language presentation, right?
Which of all of them?
The last one. Like, it was very specific. Like, there are some needs at dual language. I know that there's special needs. Like I read in the notes that someone stated that the district has been granted by the courts the ability for families to sue, right? Because we're not meeting the needs of children, specifically IEPs, right? But the conversation keeps being 5 versus 6. That's not even a needed conversation. Like right now, like maybe a need is how are we gonna keep them getting sued, right? Maybe a need is like how can we make sure that the dual language learners are performing at a level that they should, because I can't remember what the report said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it said they're not going into middle school reading at an appropriate level or something like that.
That's across the district, not necessarily just
but I'm just saying like about dual language because that's the one we haven't identified. If you look at the equity report, like the first meeting, we saw the test scores. Ruth brought it up again today. We saw the test scores. So while Wiley was making gains, we went from like 0 to 5%, right? That's not really nothing to brag about. So it's just, there are some really serious needs at the elementary school level, and this is not an indictment against anyone. And I feel like people are feeling like attacked because it's like it's their personal interest. But we just have to state like very boldly, and very, like I said earlier today, selfishly, like the 6 to 8 group is advocating. They're not thinking about the elementary school needs. They're not discussing it. They're not bringing it up. Y'all don't even exist to them. The high school group, I've been in there for the last 2 meetings. We've been talking about high school needs. We have not been talking about elementary school needs. The only reason I asked for like a 3 through 12 sample cohort is because I know that the district is rated by the state by their high school outcomes, right? Like that, like what is your graduation rate? What is your dropout rate? Like I know that from a policy position as well. Like that's what we spend our time talking about. How can we stop kids from dropping out? Is it an inclusion thing? Is it like, what is it? So everybody else is taking this time to talk about what they need except for y'all. Y'all are arguing for something when you haven't even said what need 5 to 6 elementary schools or a 6th grade center is going to address at the elementary level. So I really want to, because we only really have this last meeting to discuss it. Y'all can do homework. I feel like a few of y'all have been doing homework and coming back and not necessarily being heard. But I want, even if you want to spend this time, like stating, hey, put it on a whiteboard somewhere. This is what we see and it's a lot. It's like, I don't know if you've been listening to the meetings, it's a lot. It's, whether it's public statements, whether that have literally nothing to do with the building Wiley itself. I think our highest performing school is Lille, and I think they're only at 40% of students, reading at or above grade level at the various, that's not, I don't know if that's good enough for y'all. I don't know if you're just like, you're proud of that and, we're willing to sacrifice because we have one school reading at 40%. But, I can't really tell y'all what to do. I can just tell you what we as co-chairs are hoping that y'all would do. They said that, Katie, you said that we won't be able to access this money like this at this level for 10 years, right? So we're not going to have this conversation for 10 more years. That's a decade. That's a whole cohort of children, right?
So I guess what I don't understand though is that I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what we need at the elementary school, but this committee isn't going to address that.
We are, the charge says, and the reason why I keep going back to the charge is because when we looked at former examples of how special committees reported out, they reported out according to the charge. And we can only report out according to the charge.
But it seems like our what we can give people is this physical space that's transformed into something.
Yep.
But that's not necessary. That in itself is not going to, what I've seen in elementary school is going to help us with the needs that we have.
Have you shared what you've seen in elementary school with everybody else? Or we know?
No,
Right.
But I'm just saying, it depends. If we had the ability to just have whatever we wanted. If you told me,
sure,
okay, you could have a 6 elementary school with a lot more staff to make smaller class sizes, and we're going to hire high quality staff, and we're going to hire minoritized staff. Then I think we could address a lot of those issues. But I don't feel like this committee we have the power to do that.
Well, but that also doesn't, remember the buckets. The buckets. You can't, the $20 million, we can't spend it on staffing.
I know. That's
Wait a minute, before we all get into that, what I heard you say is that we need smaller classes, we need more staff, and we need more staff to identify with minority identities. Those are 3 needs. We need to put it down somewhere, whether we can address it with Wiley or not. That's not the point of this. We need to, what do we need at K through 5? And then before you speak, and then once we see what we need at K through 5, we say, well, we got this. Will it address that? But you guys are all the way over here about the addressing stuff without the, what do we need?
Because I don't feel like we can get it.
Well, we don't even know. We don't know. We don't know. Because I guess what I'm saying right here is I'm feeling like y'all are not even willing to have the conversation. And we need to have the conversation. Can Wiley and $20 million address the high school dropout rate? Can it? Anybody?
No.
Well, down the line,
before you speak.
No.
Yeah.
Right. So, but why are we identifying that as a need at the high school level? This is not, and you can, and I definitely want you to speak. This is not that. This is not that. Right? We know, okay, they need to address the, we found out from Deion Webster that the Latinx population of students is not feeling connected. These resources is not going to address that, but guess what? We know that that's an issue. Maybe something else can address it. We're having the hard conversations in the high school group. We're seeing that, most of the kids that get kicked out of school, suspended and expelled are Black. Is $20 million and Wiley going to fix that? No, that's not the point. Because there's 2 parts to this. What do we need, and can it address this? And at the elementary school level, y'all have some needs. And just let's talk about it. So then when we come before the whole group, we can say, this is the need. Can these resources address this need? The whole group will be like, no. Can these resources address this need? The whole group will be like, maybe. But we gotta put the needs out there. We cannot not have the conversation because in our mind, we think that that's not going to address the need. I know that Wiley's not going to address the high school dropout rate by adding on extra classrooms. In $20 million. I talked to Paul, he said and I did a dream exercise with him. He said if he had his choice with the $20 million, he would fix the congestion that happens at the high school and middle school. And if you ever dropped off a kid at the high school and middle school, but that's a need, but we can't address it with that $20 million. So I just want to remind everybody, don't be afraid to say what it is that you see, you think, you feel, we need. We can find it in the data. The issue about the need for the whole school dual language, right? We have that data. We literally have the data, right? And there's 50 whole school dual language models in the country that we can look at to support it if we need to. And if we, maybe it comes down, I don't know, but I'm telling you right now from being in the other groups, they are not thinking about the needs of the elementary school. They're thinking about they are well, let's go look at Wiley. They've already made a decision, the greatest need, from what I understand, at the middle school is social emotional. And they're pulling discipline data to support that. They're pulling all kind of data to support what they're identifying as a need. And I just think that it would be a wasted opportunity if we just sit up here and have this conversation we've been having for the past months about 6 or 5 elementary schools when that's not even our charge. I'm sorry.
When that's done, I'd like to say something.
No, Peggy first, because you wanted to go first. I wanted to circle back to you.
Okay.
I
guess there's
about the charge of the committee, I think,
Yeah.
is one thing you wanted to say.
I guess there's just two things. I've been at all the committee meetings. Actually, I missed one, but I listened to it because it was a great recording. And I think we've spent a lot of time talking about needs. I mean, we haven't spent the whole meeting talking about needs, but in my recollection, I know for sure last time because I facilitated it, we all talked about needs. And then we came back to be honest, I joined this committee because of what it says right here that we were given before in the first day of our meeting is that we are charged with deciding what to do with Wiley Elementary. So I feel frankly comfortable with the amount of time we spent talking about needs and then looking at what can we do now to address those needs through our decision about Wiley. Because I know that $20 million can't be used for anything except for a building. So I'm comfortable spending 5 meetings talking about needs and spending the last meeting or 2 really addressing the charge that I joined this committee to do, which was to address the Wiley issue. And with in mind how the needs can be met.
Right.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think we have to be careful because I'll go back to what Greg said about smaller class sizes and more staff. To me, those aren't needs. Those are also solutions. So the need to me is our kids aren't reading. Our kids aren't demonstrating social and emotional needs. Our kids are saying that they don't belong in the school in which they attend. Those are needs. A solution to that could be smaller class sizes and more staff. It could be separating kindergarten from our elementary schools and having a kindergarten center. An address of those needs could be, so I think we have to be really careful about saying these are needs. Those are solutions to needs that we have talked about in the group. But I just think that's really important to think about it.
For sure.
That those are solutions as well, without talking about why do we want smaller class sizes or,
Yes, and I definitely did see, I'm sorry if I implied, I did not see that in the notes because I did see it in the notes.
Back to the 6 versus 5, that was a need in a sense because, I'm sorry. We need 6 schools versus we need 5 schools. And you said, well, don't worry your pretty head about it because our administration already said you can do anything you want. So you didn't say that.
I'm sorry, I would never speak to you in such a pejorative way.
No, sorry.
Okay. Don't worry, because your head is pretty smart. Okay. And I appreciate the work that you do.
So, so you're asking us to trust the data we get from the administration, saying yes, this is available. You can do this. Where I look at it and I say, no, you can't do that. So this becomes a need. Right? You can go down to 5 schools. No, we need 6 schools. I mean, we're arguing on the word need where it's part of our job is to not go to the board and have them do a mistake of the sort, we thought we can go down to 5 schools, not a problem, because a grade center was the biggest need.
For sure. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
What need have y'all identified at the elementary level that justifies going down to 5 schools?
Going down to 5 schools? I don't have that.
Wait,
but, yeah.
Based on the elementary school data, the thing that we gave y'all, what need are you addressing by going down to 5 schools? Is it a human capital need? Is it an enrollment need?
Yeah,
is it a, one second, yes, that is, I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. I hate being repetitive. If you're suggesting or recommending we're going down to 5 schools as a solution, what is the problem that's addressing? Y'all have not identified the problem that going down to 5 schools would address. I know we keep saying needs, but in research world we say problem, right? What is the problem? What's the problem with having 6 schools?
But it's implied if there are, so we can have a recommendation against, because when you have a 6th grade center, you are reducing you're taking away one of the elementary school. If they had 6th grade center somewhere else, that's fine. We wouldn't have to have this discussion about 5
Can we
versus
just imagine
6.
that 6th grade center is not even an option, just so we can talk about what it is we need at the elementary school?
So and this may just be stuff in my head too, and so that's why I'm not thinking about certain things as solutions. But right when we have 5 buildings next year, we will still have 6 elementaries, because every teacher who was at, more or less, right? Because the classrooms.
No,
because of how many classrooms we're at. Yes, how many classrooms we're at?
John added 6 classrooms
There's only
for next year. There are 8.
There's 8 classrooms.
I'm gonna go ahead.
But we said we're not going to compute that.
Even if it's literally, even if it's
Well,
wrong
if
need.
it's only 8 classrooms.
Is that okay? Even if it's the wrong need, I love you.
I am very confused right now, I'll be honest.
Sure.
I hear what we're saying about not discussing the 6th grade center and not discussing, but I feel like the middle school and the elementary, they're not interdependent. The decision you make about one affects the middle school. The decision you make about the middle school affects the elementary. And I think that's what's different about the middle school discussion and the high school discussions happening, because their conversations only affect those spaces. Elementary, it directly impacts what is going to happen at the middle school. So I understand, I hear the conversation about how we shouldn't just be talking about the 6th grade center. I hear that, and I agree, but to omit it all together, to me, doesn't make sense, because anything you do at elementary is going to impact the middle school.
Right, but before we even get to that part, right, if we do want to talk about 6th grade, can we just on paper, I know you had some last week for the last meeting, list the things that y'all need. Just tell me, tell Peggy, tell whomever, just tell us, right? And then 1 and 2.
I was thinking about what you were, I think, what I took away from what Kai is saying is that the middle school group, for instance, is licking their chops, we have this new building. And they're not going to advocate for K through 5 at all, because that's not their job. If they do that, high school does that, and exactly, the K through 5 students wants to do it. But the other groups are not looking for solutions to anything at K through 5 necessarily. And if we don't do it, then no one is going to. That's what I took away from what Kai said. So concentrating would it be good for 6th graders? Then you have 2 groups talking about 6th graders. And no one's talking about K through 5. But I think what you're saying, writing it down was awesome.
It's very related to that. I think there's a disconnect because when you're talking about the 6th and the high school, they only have a gain. We know that a very big possibility is a loss. And it's really hard not to talk about that, which is why we discuss 5 versus 6.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Mainly from the data that I've seen you do and from other things, it's mostly 5 seems problematic, and that's we're kind of arguing against that loss a little bit. So
I hope y'all, I really do hope y'all are hearing what I'm saying. Y'all can't spend this time talking about 5 versus 6 if y'all want to.
No, well done. We'll talk about needs.
But I'm saying, can we at least if you could imagine unlimited resources, and we can address whatever, like, what would you do if Dr. Ira Tatum came back and was like, you know what, that $20 million is just going to just straight for an elementary school project. What would you do with it? Don't think about like the restraints right now, because we are just imagining and dreaming. It's just for elementary
Well,
school.
good ideas, I mean, everybody.
So that's
But does it include
yeah.
staff too?
It includes everything.
I mean, it's fine, I'll do that, but I just want to know if this like thought experiment like includes
It includes everything.
however, because we know regardless of the classrooms that every teacher from Wiley wanted a job in the district, had a job in the district. So if it comes with the staffing, then I'll just go ahead and dream.
Sure, like literally, just indulge me, please, just for a few minutes. I just know that this group has, like you said, the most at stake, and it is the least unified in what do y'all think the solution should be. But go ahead, if you want to list your 12 that you got.
And these aren't mine, these are the ones that everybody shared last meeting, which was just a couple weeks ago.
Sure.
Inadequate supports for special education population.
So spare the parts.
Yeah, addressing equity issues across the elementaries, meaning there isn't equitable.
Well, what do we mean by equity? Are we talking about racial equity? Are we talking about access? Like, what are we talking
Access to
about?
academic supports, access to support staff, access to even the facilities themselves. There are equity issues across the elementaries. Class size is too great and it impacts teaching and learning, so class size came up.
What did they say specifically about class size?
They will increase, yeah. They're too
So
big now.
is that a current need, or is that like,
The current need was more from the aids section. When classes get to a certain point, it's too difficult to get aids for support.
so that goes back to like more support staff?
No, class size.
Class.
The need.
Yes. We either need to take the class size down to eliminate the need for aids, or
Class
all support
management.
classes. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Social emotional learning impacts from COVID across the board in K-5.
And what did y'all get specific about what that need was?
Just the social emotional learning, I mean, that Ruth
I can
reported
give you
on
the
tonight.
panorama. They,
Social emotional needs are very high and have worsened since COVID.
Okay. So social emotional needs, not so much person. And then that's.
And the last one was discrepancies between ISB and district reports.
that's not important.
Yeah, I mean,
That was just numbers. I couldn't figure out what John was doing. That was sloppy.
And then you just know that statement some needs just a few minutes ago.
Well, our students aren't doing reading and math
So they need to.
at a level that we would want them to.
So increased reading.
It's not
And
just
math
increase.
proficiency.
It's like the 0%. There's so many grades behind. I don't know how you can capture it.
We need to,
It's not like we're increasing from
Increase.
70% are proficient to 80%. We don't like 70. We have
academic outcomes, which is like more than just reading and math, right? So we can even put those together if we want to. What else do we need at the elementary school level? Teacher diversity.
Well, I would argue teacher diversity, because what historically tends to happen is all the people of color are in the support staff, are in the custodial positions, and not in the
Our
teaching
teacher
positions. It
our
needs to
teacher
be
positions are the
teacher
least diverse that we have. So it is specific to, they're both priorities, but that's not your need.
Any other?
Developmentally appropriate practices at K-2.
I agree with you so much.
I'm an early childhood principal.
Okay.
Or I was last week.
cultural and linguistic access
Okay.
in all buildings.
the English learners' needs, teaching them English, maybe more ESL.
They do all have access to ESL.
Okay, any other needs? Do we need a longer school day to be able to address some of these needs?
Are
We shouldn't have after
specifically
school.
student
Yeah.
needs, or are we talking staff?
We can say staff needs, but,
Because I do think that there is a need, not necessarily an extended day, but I do think more time for teacher professional development.
okay.
How about after-school tutoring?
That's up to, are you saying,
I think the kids need it.
What did you say?
yeah. But because of these are the needs. To me, again, I understand it's
You're
semantics,
saying
but
it's a
that's
solution.
the solution to these needs.
What did she say? Was
She
it-
said academic school
After school
tutoring.
tutoring.
Oh,
The
yes.
need is
After
this
school
to be,
tutoring.
you, and again, I know that's semantical, but.
But I think it's like, a need is more involvement of tutors and mentors. That's-
I think we captured maybe that with support staff.
No, it's like community.
I think it becomes solution.
It's community work, okay.
Like I don't think DPW has a PTA.
Anymore?
They have a PTA. They have a
I
PTA.
don't think,
No,
I don't
it's not
think
PTA.
Cam has a PTA, I don't think.
Just one of them, sorry, I misspoke.
They all have established PTAs. Some buildings have more members than others.
Yeah.
We have PTA.
Real didn't have, like, we had a PTA, but we didn't have it. Like, no.
Anything, like we just dreaming right now, what, you know, we're literally dreaming.
I appreciate the way you're saying we're dreaming. To me, we're identifying needs. The dream is about how to solve the need.
Sure, but how do you want to, how do you
So,
want to
yeah.
needs, especially people who actually work in the schools, tell us what you need. I feel like we need free aftercare. Like, I know that, what is the grant, Katie?
Splash.
Yeah, the Splash grant is targeted, and so it means that some people get free aftercare, other people don't. I feel like we need free aftercare. That's just my perspective as a parent. So is it okay if I put that down? I don't want you guys.
Greg, I feel like you're like,
No,
it's just like this energy coming off you, and I feel like there's more to contribute here.
Beth and Lupe said already.
You can reiterate what we
No,
say.
no, it's okay.
Make us
That's
feel
not
good
a lot.
about our answers.
So we put class size, but did we also put equitable building size?
What does that mean?
I mean,
Dr. Randy's having 450 kids, while Wiley have, what, 200?
But I hear that a lot, but I don't necessarily know if that's an equity thing unless we're saying that there's something inherently negative about.
I'm saying that from an
building with lots of
administrator's
staff.
perspective.
Well, yes, if you need an equitable staff or administrator to student population ratio, then I think it makes more sense. to
It
say
makes a
that.
huge impact, not
Yeah.
just the number of students that a building has.
ratio isn't enough of a solution
Yeah.
to that.
So, to your point, I think that the equitable enrollment is that the schools with the highest needs need the lowest enrollments. Because that would be equitable.
Well, yeah, and also another thing is too, and I hear that a lot of times too, I think that means then that we should be striving to have all of our elementary schools have lower populations rather than trying to have, that should be our goal, should be to have all of our schools be the size of Wiley instead of having any of the size of TPW.
Well, the downside to that, though, is that, when you get too low and you don't have enough strands, you don't have enough support for all the support staff that you want, full-time librarian, full-time fine arts, full-time, social workers and all of that, because you're not bringing enough money from the state to justify that.
But that's not our problem. We just talk about what we need. That's their problem. That's
No, I-
Katie's problem.
I-
I'm being facetious, I'm sorry. If I felt
I think we have to be a little
dismissive.
bit responsible, too.
Yes, but in this exercise, I would
In that-
just, if we can just continue on, if we can just pretend like, we're gonna say, this is what we need, and the admin team is gonna tell us yes or no.
So how about,
So I apologize.
No, I think that's really just answering what you're saying. It does.
I think in terms of this conversation, and especially with DPW, there's a need to make sure that we are not going beyond our capacity in our buildings. And I think you can have a building that fits a large number of students and you can staff it in such a way that it works. But when you are, there's a need to not push our buildings beyond the capacity in which they are able to have teaching and learning happening in spaces that are appropriate for teaching and learning. And to me, that's aligns to what you were saying, and you were saying in terms of equitable enrollment. It's really about not pushing those buildings to the maximum and using non-teaching and learning spaces for teaching and learning, because your district lines are such that some buildings are fuller than others.
Needs?
I was going to say, what about curriculum and instructions? Does this fit into this committee?
So I did speak, if I may, I did speak to someone who was a longtime employee, and they did speak to, I think one of y'all made a point about reading, and like the need for like better reading curriculum or something like that.
I mean, obviously, with our scores show that our curriculum, we have a need with our curriculum. Our academic
Is it the
outcomes
curriculum or
speak
is
to
it the
fact.
instructions?
It's both.
Right.
It's not one or the other. It's both. And so our academic outcomes need that we've talked about, a solution to that, to me, is curriculum and teaching.
I remember from the dual language, the last one, they said that we needed curriculum that's already translated.
Yes, it's like a more cohesive curriculum. Implying that they
You're welcome to put, to me, the need there is that the bill for dual language specifically, they need to be more in line across the two buildings. I feel like that encompasses all of the above.
So the CAL report said that the needs of the dual language, well, there were a list of steps that they needed to take to improve it, and one of them was to have a curriculum.
Alignment across both buildings.
And the curriculum, so they described what was happening was that the teachers were kind of building up their own curriculum, and they were referring to it as a hodgepodge kind of curriculum. That's a quote from the report. So they recommended to have an actual curriculum, like buy a curriculum.
Anybody else on needs? This is a pretty great list. I don't know the 20 million addresses, but it's a great list. Anybody else on needs?
The other thing that the CAL report was, we wrote like cultural access, but that's not the same thing as like cultural enrichment. That was a very specific thing that I remember we come up with.
I wouldn't say enrichment as much as I would say representation.
Okay.
Yeah. It's part of it, but also is like the things that they're learning about should also be.
Yeah, I mean, how many field trips did any of the schools take last year? One at Wiley that I know of.
That would be for all the buildings, so
So,
not just
yeah.
talking specifically about.
Yeah,
But I
so,
mean,
like,
why don't, if we're pie in the sky, why aren't they going on a monthly basis to see U of I or the Granite?
I think I don't know what's happening at other schools, but I think you could use a more rigorous science curriculum across the district. And I don't know, at the other schools, do y'all get like the people from the U of I coming in and doing the experiments and stuff? Other parents at other schools? Okay.
Oh, well, what is that group called?
I mean, there were certain different groups.
The U of I engineering students would come into the classroom.
Oh, yeah.
I know they did it at Wiley, I don't know if they did it at other buildings.
They do it at Leo.
They did it at Leo, did they do it at DPW or?
I think they have in the past. I think it just depends on how many students the U of I has.
I'm just gonna throw that on there.
Yeah.
I know I spelled all that wrong.
Does community support, was that about parents?
Increased community support, so.
Okay, so what about increased parents' involvement?
I will say that with the asterisks, because we have to define what we mean by parent
I was
involvement.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it has to be kind of rooted in an equity lens.
I think it's called the PAC that we do, and so it's called the PAC. So all the Title I schools have to have this plan to have between the school and the parents, where how they are going to get the parents involved. And
But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is an area I'm very passionate about too, what involvement for me, my level of involvement, what I can give to my building may be very different than what Beth can give. That doesn't mean I care about my child any less or I'm any less involved in their education, but maybe I work nights and I can't ever go to a PTA, to conferences, to anything at night. But you darn well know that I'm giving them food, I'm buying them clothes, I'm making sure they're doing their homework. But she can be at everything, and I think that's kind of what.
yeah, you misunderstood what I meant. It's not about that. It's more like homework, how communication between the school and. Right? So we have these parent student handbooks, and they have all sorts of wonderful things in them, and they are not what we see in the field. So, for example, we don't get homework, but there are 2 pages about the homework.
Y'all don't get homework?
We don't get homework.
At Leo?
Yankee Ridge.
At Yankee Ridge, y'all don't get homework?
They don't get homework.
So I would say we need, this is literally just Rakaya from like the policy student, a more cohesive
So that's a good word.
District
policy,
Policies, yes.
or cohesive or maybe centralized. Because I know you guys are very site-based, right? Policy, more policies, more academics. I know that we do have homework at Priory, but my philosophy is the no homework policies. You know, so it's like that shouldn't be different from building to building, or maybe it should be, because I also have heard that the Urbana way is site-based leadership, right? And this is, and I promise you, this is not an indictment on anyone. So if you're feeling that way, I apologize. We're just literally just saying what it is that you think that we need. We might be wrong. It's very likely that we're wrong, you know, some of the things we're suggesting. You know, I am not a teacher anymore. And when I worked in the district, our needs were similar and something different. But I just don't want this to go down. We never didn't capture what the needs were at that elementary level.
Can we talk about things that parents see in the classroom? So I just don't know where it will go, because it's clear that the teacher has a need for help with the management of the classroom. Where would it fit? Which one of these?
We capture that with SEL and.
But is it SEL or is it discipline? I think it's called restorative. So they have something called restorative practices, and I think.
We can have restorative practices, but it has to be taught. So I think that's like professional development. Yeah, so more time for PD around like behavior.
But to me, it's more like what kind of support does a teacher get in the classroom, so it doesn't go into chaos. So I don't go into the building and I see a kid trying to jump out of the window or into the parking lot, or I try to go into the classroom to tutor a kid and the door is locked, and the teacher tells me, oh, I had to lock the door so the kids won't run out. So what does...
How would y'all capture that?
So I see that stuff, sorry about, and like some of the stuff there with support staff, but specifically, because at least from my personal experience, when you have children and have this challenging behaviors, then it's about getting help quickly to help that student and help that family, and then you can go ahead and that should, you know, as long as you're doing everything else you need to be doing, that should take care of your, you know, the issues that you have. So I see that anyway as being fulfilled by. I know some of our schools have, well, I don't even know actually, do any of our schools have clinical professionals? I'm not even sure exactly.
Clinical professionals.
I don't know about it.
And I'm not even sure what they do exactly. But I just mean still, but support like that, of that nature, both inside our school and outside of our school it's definitely a huge need.
So what would you capture that?
Partnerships with the the services in the community to provide that, it can, a lot of
Increase
that.
community resources.
And, yeah, I mean, I think we already have it up, that's what I was saying, I think we already have it up there.
I mean, can you be more specific about, like, for someone, like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you be more specific? Like, what would we write?
So like
that
someone
could-
mentioned restorative practices. So when the middle school started using restorative practices, we accessed community resources to come in and offer the PD to kind of walk them through how to
What are the
facilitate.
community resources?
That particular one was a private consulting partnership that.
I used a different.
Yeah.
So it would be like public and private companies. Public, like if it's like the county comes in or
We use,
private.
I think Spumans.
That's
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I think
Different,
I still don't understand the practical part.
that come in, like the Wellspring and stuff like that. They come in just to provide support. All right, I just,
I don't see it yet. So a teacher is in front of 20 kids, and 4 of them are running around the classroom tossing pencils. The teacher can't teach. What does she do?
Well, but you're asking a question so there's all kinds of context that's not there for me when I hear that. Like if the teacher has the.
But it's day after day after day. So
I understand that, but I'm saying if the teacher has the knowledge that they need, and they have established all of their routines, and they have the procedures, and they're consistent, then and they've identified the kids in the room who need help. Mm-hmm. Then they've reached out to and the systems have to be in place in the school also. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about the leadership in the school and the support staff in the school, and they have come up with plans to help the children, and then that shouldn't be happening, I guess is what I'm saying.
so
So that's what
that
we see
is-
happening. So
Well,
what?
and you probably do, like I saw it in my school, but I know that it's not necessarily a numbers issue, because when I was a teacher, I would have 50 to 80 as a band director, and I had kids in the South Bronx who had never seen an instrument, and they want to run around my classroom, because it's not necessarily always about numbers, and so it sounds like that teacher might not have, what do you call that, classroom control stuff? Classroom management strategies, which would be something.
We can get to a micro level,
Yeah.
and I hear what you're saying is a concern for sure in our schools, but when we think about that at such a micro level, there are at least 10 needs up here that we've talked about that should be addressing that at the macro level.
Yeah.
And so we can continue to talk about many different needs. Anything we come up with at this point really will most likely fall under one of these needs.
Yeah.
And I think now it's time to start thinking about these needs and what can we do structurally with facilities to address some of these needs that are the highest priority.
Yep. And that is exactly, I agree with you 100%. So I just wanted y'all to just identify them, right? And it's like, okay, this is what we see, and given the resources that we have, which needs can be addressed, so you can come up with a recommendation. But you can't come up with a recommendation if you haven't really thought about what it is that you need. Like, I think this is the first time I've heard about a K center.
I know, because I've been gone a couple weeks.
Yeah, I know when I was talking in high school, somebody talked about a 9th grade center.
Hey, can we put that up there?
What, a K center?
Yes.
No, that's a solution, not a
not a
need.
solution.
What we have up here is the need
Yeah.
is developmentally appropriate practices K-2.
Right.
So that's,
Okay.
you
The reason why I'm asking, I missed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But I know, like, here's what I'm gonna do. This week, my brother is the Secretary of Education in Massachusetts. So I'm gonna have a conversation with him, but I'm trying to figure out more about what we're trying to say so that I can come back with a much better solution from somebody who's actually involved in a whole lot of stuff, who knows a lot more than what I do, and just, come up with something else that may be different from what was said. And this is the first time I've heard K Center too.
So while you were gone, we just talked about literally just explicitly identifying needs at the K-5 level. Like, we care. We really do care about what happens at 6 through 12. We do. But for this moment, we're thinking very selfishly about what's needed at the K-5 level.
So,
And we can stop.
yeah. So if I were gonna make a recommendation for us, don't look at that clock away.
I'm trying to read.
Is I would have each of us take a look at this and, taking a picture, good, Daniel, good. Those are gonna be our minutes for this session.
It's done.
And, we would each rank our top 5. It wouldn't have to be, this is my number 1 priority, but we would pick 5 of these and see where we land as we all pick our top 5. Is that making sense? And then as we look at what those top 5, maybe we all, say a need is one, and cull it down to that.
Within that, and this is just a question, if, now that we have our needs down, is it also feasible to eliminate ones that we know that $20,000 can't be spent on? Like 20 million, I'm sorry.
That's what I wanted to do.
Sorry,
I was like, it just got real.
I love all of these ideas for human capital. One, there is no human capital.
There is no human capital.
And 2, even if there was, Katie's saying we can't spend that money on that human capital.
Oh, Katie, we can spend it on equipment? Right, and I think curriculum as well. Upgrades and security.
But
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
I'm just discussing.
I mean, we can't spend it on security personnel.
Right.
But you could spend it on,
Smart.
Oh, we can, it doesn't go
you
through.
could spend it on, metal
Cameras.
detectors,
What
cameras.
were
Okay.
those 3 you
Yeah, I
said
didn't-
again?
You said upgrades, equipment, and
security.
security.
No, what were the 3 that Bruce said?
Those are,
Upgrades,
Oh.
equipment, and security.
I thought you said. So, and we can't spend it on personnel.
no.
Yeah.
But you can go on curriculum because it's supplied.
Yes, curriculum, especially large-scale curriculum, it could potentially be capital, but I don't know, usually that's a supply.
No,
It's not really
it's
supply.
So,
But computers,
from what I understand,
Sometimes.
to your point, from what I understand, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, this is what Paul told me, it can be used for hard equipment like smart boards,
Yes.
Yes.
things like stuff that like you have to go into the wall.
Those two.
You can't get it, you can't get laptops with it.
Yes, you can.
Yes, again,
Yes, you
yes.
can.
Okay, but tell Paul.
Yeah. Computer equipment in general can be.
I was just saying, like, if I'm trying to
If you could go-
eliminate things to off my list,
So I am
It should
going
cost
to-
at least $500 per item.
So it's just.
I am going to,
You can-
because I took over y'all's meeting, give the Sharpie back to Peggy and Beth.
That would probably take the marker and stuff.
Daniel and Beth, they can go to either one.
So I am now a participant now. Y'all, but you got it.
Just slash that out of the board there.
did anybody copy these?
He took a picture, but if you wanna,
And if you send it to me, I can type it out so it's real words. Because I can read my handwriting most of the time.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. for the person.
Although, I mean, to be honest, if you eliminate anything that takes personnel, there's almost nothing, I mean, nothing up there does not involve personnel in a big way, so,
well,
I mean, I guess.
yes and no,
Yeah.
right? I
Class
mean,
size, I suppose,
yeah.
depending on how many buildings we have, that would affect class size.
Well, and I think anything that would require fund, like, we can't use that $20 million for after school year, right, Katie? No, because that's people. Yeah.
But if you built like an aftercare
You would have
Yeah.
to staff it. Oh, you would staff it.
Well, whatever we do with it.
Yeah,
we have to staff it
we're not
there.
staffing, that-
All of our solutions require staffing, right?
Who's watching the kids?
I'm my constant full time, so
Tom?
the staffing thing's been the issue the whole time.
Are you paying that person? Yeah, how are you paying them?
they would have to come.
But it's also space
someone
because,
else would- you lose one person, you gain one person. The same.
so when, I sort of see what you're saying. So right now, we're talking about moving our already staffed children to different spaces. So as an example, if we were to make it a kindergarten center, we would be talking about moving our already paid for by our current funding kindergarten teachers to the kindergarten center. If we were to build a like a child care center, which, lots of places do offer child care to their employees and whatever, we can't give up teachers to house that, because we still have the same number of students that we need teachers for. So when you say we're swapping or they're coming from somewhere else, I don't.
I'm not advocating for it.
No, I
I'm
understand. Yeah.
just saying, like, if you said, oh, now we have a child care center and we need to staff it, then you would have to decide what positions to eliminate to hire people in childcare. And maybe in addressing some of these needs, you say, we really could use X person, and someone is going to have to make the decision, like, well, this person is laid off. I mean, that happens. Are we laying off anybody from closing Wiley? Does anyone know?
No, everybody's at your house.
Everyone's good. I'm just saying, you can move people.
I mean,
I got a lateral move in.
It's not a lateral move.
I can't say
You can't
100%
staff the top tier
positions.
teachers.
I don't know that 100% of every single person, I don't know that 100% of every single person who worked at Wiley has another position in the district. I don't know if that's true.
Everyone was, it is 100% true that everybody was offered a position. It may not have been a position that they wanted.
Every single person that wanted a position got a position.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going off of what people have told me about not getting offers, so.
No, that's not,
So,
yeah.
well,
Everybody.
Can I say something about the effort? If we felt like that was important, if that was built into one of those non-education spaces or something like that, built into the facility, I'm not talking about staffing for that, but if we were going to say that this is how we were going to use some of that money, whether it's a multi-purpose room that wasn't meant to be a classroom, but it is a space that we can do aftercare or something else that was a multi-purpose room, could that be a good use of that so that we can better help facilitate some of the changes, and maybe that will eliminate some of the problems that we have after school, and then come back later on.
There's no mechanism to
Right,
fund.
and so this is what I'm saying though.
Yeah.
But if you're still, by that point though, we're taking the people part of it out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, the money will buy the boards to build the room, but then the staff to be in there to supervise, that goes back to what we alluded to earlier, which is then living among our means, because the district's going to have to take that on to pay that salary somewhere, because the money allocated, the 60 million, is not going to be that per
Sure, but
expense.
if that was covered, you may have somebody else, there's staffing issues everywhere, but if that was to fit in someone else's schedule, you may be more apt to get somebody to fill that position than you would during the day. Just saying.
Yeah, that is a possible solution, but before we get to solutions.
Yeah, no, I'm just bringing it up.
Before we get to solutions, we have two ideas on the table, right? One is pick your top 5.
Yeah, let's just stick with this.
Oh, I
We're
thought
not
that's
going to
what
be
we were doing. I
able
thought we were
to.
just nixing what you thought.
I suggest not mixing anything, because we can have semantically, like, this is a people versus not. But think about your top 5. And if you have or haven't done that, and let's come up with our individual list and then look at putting
So should
tallies
we
in.
take like 2 minutes and everyone does it on their own, write it down?
Yep.
and we will do that.
Thank you.
Where do you post it over there?
I don't have it back, but I can see if they have. Also, I wasn't like necessarily ranking my 1 through 5, I was just coming up with 5. But if people want, like,
No, that's right.
Yeah, so just
I just wanted to,
in no particular order.
Another color marker.
I might have,
Oh, you know what? I have Post-its in my backpack. Lori? Yeah.
Or we could just use the red marker and just tally.
No, I have a bunch.
I had some in the back.
I have lots. I never use them. I work out.
Yeah, I was thinking stars or tallies.
Here, I got pink.
Daniel, you got
Or tiny blue. There's 2. Hold on, I got one. Oh, here I got lots. I got
Tiny pink.
blue. I got green. More tiny blue.
I think you bring over there to take a lot of,
Okay.
I can just remember
Here you go.
what I was
Boom.
I just
Oh, thank you.
That's what I read their present to myself.
Which one? Developmentally.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm just,
Can I borrow the, or do you want to fix it?
Fix your hand.
no, I didn't mean any disrespect by that. I just wanted to know what was.
Rebecca knows her handwriting. She is not offended by that, says the person who has bad handwriting.
If you have that question, somebody else got that question. Isn't that like teacher 101?
You're right.
Yeah.
We only have one more.
There's a red one over here.
Well, I would call this a lighter color background.
Why don't we, I mean, this is gonna take forever if people call stuff out.
Yeah.
Why don't everyone grab a marker and put a tick mark,
Okay.
like, this way?
No, that Rusty might have in his room. It's a bunch of white marker, dry erase
So
marker.
grab a marker.
Colors?
Make 5
Yeah.
ticks.
Okay.
Pass your marker to the next person.
Okay.
We're just gonna go grab a bunch of.
Okay, well, let's get started.
I'll go first.
I'm still thinking.
Oh, I got it. Oh, it's orange when you write it.
Maybe if we put it at the end, if you could put it at the end instead of over it, so we'll know what goes with which.
But if you put it at the end, they're not gonna be aligned. Trust me.
Okay.
It's better at the front. Did you just erase it?
No, I erased mine. You were joking. You thought I erased one of yours.
We would count both ones. Okay. Oh, there we go.
I don't know. So I've done.
Now, who's ready?
Who wants a marker? Greg, you're dying for it. Oh, let's try it.
Oh, let me go.
Oh, that was a you, not a me issue. That's such a horrible throw.
Aaron's taking the oath to recognize sped support versus support staff, the same sped days.
If we merge them out.
No.
Nobody marked the top one, erase the top one and put it here.
You're saying like sped A's versus sped support?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I don't
saying
know.
that-
I don't know if
Right,
it's
the same.
different. I don't know what they had in mind when they said it, so that's why I'm not necessarily knowing.
Can we all agree that sped support and support staff such as sped aides are the same thing and we can erase one of them?
Yes.
Okay. Go.
Or could we just circle them all together? Then it's all, I don't know, that's, okay.
Thank you, Dan.
Here we go.
Ooh,
He gave
a
me
black
two.
one.
So,
Yeah, these are probably.
there one for you guys?
Like the same things too.
There'll be some other things we can go ahead and put together.
Here's another marker. You guys want to write yours?
Is that a permanent one?
Yeah, it's a dry erase marker.
Oh, it's a-
SE needs, I don't know.
Oh, social emotional needs.
Oh, yeah, social emotional needs is supposed to worsen, it's supposed to, what it's supposed to say? Worsen. I'm writing so bad.
That's okay.
You know, they say your handwriting is worse when you're in front of a group.
Yeah, I mean, did anybody mark both though? That would be the problem. I think a line.
And this up against applications is the same one.
Yeah, it's kind of what we thought, but I'm seeing if anybody marked both. Did anybody marker?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Oh, we have the same.
She can have it. Oh, okay, thank you.
Rusty, I owe you some markers. Thank you.
There's a good chance you're going to
That's why I was thinking y'all needed a different color marker.
I don't think someone will go capitalist marker.
Yeah, the caps on it.
Can we do the same as?
No, can I have the cap? The cap on.
I mean, yours was talking about whole building, that was talking about just class.
All right, so it's the person that's throwing that.
Underhand.
All right.
Underhand.
Okay. I'm not here because I'm athletic. I haven't taken a tumble lately. I should have one coming on.
I didn't have black tie today, I was pretty impressed.
So I get the whole like no one gets fired, no staffing changes, but like it's naive to think that you like change buildings and it's not going to be reflected in what staff are there, right?
Well, I mean, the most obvious example was they didn't need 2 librarians.
Right.
And they didn't need 2 principals.
Yeah.
Right.
But that principal was absorbed in the
Right,
other principal.
exactly. So the principal becomes something else.
Well,
She became another principal.
another principal, yeah, in the district.
But then where did that principal?
There was an
I took a different job.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're in a different. So like you move someone and they move somewhere else.
Yeah.
And people get shuffled to accommodate the space. So
Yes.
like I think this is sort of like the point you brought up. It's like, well, how could like building solve these problems? But like there are these ripple effects where you build a building, you have to.
But see, I guess the thing is, like, I pretty much imagine, like, why the staff is still all in the district. I mean, I know there's a few from one different district, but they're still all in the district. So if you built another elementary school, all you're gonna really be doing is pulling the Wiley staff back into that new building. There's not gonna be an expansion of the payroll budget by $1 million. That's just not gonna happen. So that, to me, that's why I've never been able to get past, like, with the charge and everything, because what I want to have, it can't happen, not because we don't have $20 million to build a building, but because we don't have the money to basically have what amounts to 7 elementary schools.
Or the humans.
So that's, and that's, it's been, just, I don't know.
Everybody mark?
I'm sorry, did you go up there, Nick? Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, I just missed it. Probably I was throwing stuff in. Ruth, you gone? So then, we've got 3, 1, 2, 7, 2.
But do those 5 go with that arrow that's connected to?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So those 5 and those 2
Okay.
are academic out, right? But I'm starting here first. This is 1. Okay, just making sure it wasn't.
Did you get the equitable enrollment?
Oh, thank you.
No, 6.
6. Am I missing any others? There.
I think we stuck.
Leads, yep, and so.
And this should be stuck.
Yeah.
So our highest are 7, right? Which is, and then we can talk about handwriting.
Our other 7 is social emotional.
Thank you. Next highest?
Class
Class
size?
size also 7.
Oh, right there, got it. Was 6. Do we have a couple that
Should
were
we
3?
have Danielle take another picture? The numbers up?
Yeah.
I'll get out of the way.
You get to do this. Let's put an emoji on that.
okay, so.
So, if we think about academic outcomes, proficiency, social emotional needs, class size, equitable enrollment, and teacher diversity. What are some solutions that we can do with facilities
And equipment.
and equipment? Stuff. They
Things
cost a lot of money and
over
it's
$500.
permanent.
I don't think facilities and stuff is gonna address teacher.
Yeah, that's what we need to do.
I agree.
Just-
I mean, one could argue that a really fancy building might attract more people, but
Stuff.
Equitable enrollment can definitely be addressed with the resources that we
I
have.
think all of these can be with facilities and,
So curriculum, like a big curriculum that you purchase, that counts as,
God bless Katie, I don't think that's accurate.
I don't think so.
I'd say it if she were in here too.
but all of my grants,
Yeah.
that's come out of materials.
That
Buildings, yeah.
capital outlay or need.
Capital projects.
Yeah.
Think more home improvement, less home decor.
Yes, perfect.
I watch a lot of HGTV.
Did you say HGTV? Yeah, we can talk sometime.
Wow, I don't know.
Pokemon Adventure.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, it's like written in a blind spot.
What are you saying about my handwriting effort?
No, I'm just saying it's written in a blind spot.
So one
Look,
thing
between the
that
lines.
I noticed that kind of goes back to what, and I know sometimes I'm really bad at explaining things, but when I think about class size and saying like the one impacts the other, like if I look at class size from an elementary perspective and think, well, obviously smaller class sizes would be great, so it would have a positive impact at elementary. But the other side of that coin is that smaller class size at elementary, keeping 6 buildings means ginormous classes at the middle school, which, so that's what I was trying to say earlier, is like positives to one might be negatives to the other, in both ways.
And before y'all even like get into like what the impacts are, remember, we can make a recommendation and not vote on it. You don't have to vote on a recommendation. We just need the recommendation to be grounded in data. Like, this is a K-5 need. Let's say y'all decided y'all want to focus on smaller class sizes. This is just supposition, right? We know that smaller class sizes can be achieved through XYZ means. That means we would need more staff, we would need more blah, we would need more that, and then you're going to say your pros and your cons, but you're literally just making a recommendation based on the data that we have. We're not married to any of these. None of our spouses stuck in this particular thing because we're just playing the field.
That's a good way to look at it. Going back to the class size one, I mean, that does have an impact to human capital as well, because if you want smaller class sizes, you're going to need more teachers, which you have to pay and find.
Yes, and if that's the argument you want to make, just make sure you put it in the data. Like, we have this amount of budget for.
So would our recommendation be you build a 6 elementary school if you can provide the resources to staff the building?
Your recommendation can be whatever you want it to be. It has to be grounded in data, right? If your recommendation is we need smaller class, the same supposition, we need smaller class sizes. In order to achieve that, we would need blah enrollment, blah, and we have the enrollment data, blah, like, what is it, employee fund money, what is that called? What you pay the teachers with?
Payroll? I don't know.
Payroll,
I don't know.
blah payroll, blah support staff, blah administrators, blah.
I understand what you're saying, Rikai, but I just feel sometimes that is outside of the scope of this committee. To say our recommendation is that we go to class sizes, that we use Wiley to add more classes and go to class sizes of 15. It can be our recommendation. There is no ability to, in 2 ways, make that happen. To staff it and to pay for staff if we were to find them. To me, that's outside of the scope of saying as a facility committee, so I'm a
understand what you're
disconnect
saying.
there.
I guess I'm disagreeing with you in that we're not, okay, so, and I can only go tell you like what I've been told, right? I was told that we'll find money to do whatever it is we need, right? That's what I was told by the board president. And I was also told by Katie that almost any idea we come up is feasible, like we can make it happen. Anything is feasible, nothing is really off the table. If the let's say, like staying on the class size thing, let's say that we want the elementary school at the K-5 level needs smaller class sizes. What in the enrollment data suggests that? What in the academic data suggests that? What in the payroll budget suggests that? Not can we do it or can't we do it, just what suggests that? Like, just we identify the need. These are, I'm gonna go back to the high school thing. High school needs to increase their graduation rate. We have the data to suggest that it needs a graduation rate. For the high school group, we're going to make that recommendation.
What recommendation?
Some kind of recommendation drawn upon the fact that, you know, we need to increase. It might be, we might decide let's turn Wiley into a tutoring center. I don't know, but we just have to ground our recommendation in some sort of data. People can agree or disagree with a recommendation because it's just a recommendation, and we don't have the power to make a final decision anyway.
Yeah, I understand that you've been told anything's feasible and we can find money. That's just not reality. It's not reality in any negotiations meeting I sat in on talking about our funding. It's not reality in finding teachers in any capacity in which we're trying to find teachers. It's just not.
It's only something they won't do.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm just saying this.
We're giving up
As the person who is going to make the recommendation, y'all, I'm just going to make sure this is clear. You want me to say to the board, elementary school doesn't have any needs that will be met with these resources.
I want to talk about what we can do with facilities that is going to impact these.
So what I'm saying, I hear that, and I see a couple of things that could be addressed with this. Y'all talk about like this is not a supposition. This is for real. Equitable enrollment, right? Like I know I've heard Daniel say that from the first meeting that what is her school? DPW is at 450 and Wiley is at 120. Yeah. Why can't we increase Wiley so that some of the kids can go there?
So that recommendation is a recommendation to redistrict. 100% would stand behind that in a heartbeat. That would be my number one recommendation, is to redistrict our school zones. Absolutely would solve that problem.
So that we can have equitable enrollment in that.
Absolutely.
So we have to.
Position for Wiley is Wiley and redistrict.
But listen to what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, if we're saying our number one recommendation, because the greatest need is the over resource or over taxation at DPW and other high-need schools, our recommendation is to increase the capacity of Wiley so that we have more equitable enrollment.
I wouldn't make a recommendation, this is just me voting, that would say increase Wiley. It would be to redistrict. Because I don't know what redistricting needs to happen to balance it out across 5 or 6 buildings. But I can tell you that anybody who works in any one of our buildings is going to say that we need to redistrict.
And I can tell you that the board president has told me 1,010,000 times, we have to decide what to do with Wiley.
Absolutely.
Before we redistrict. If we make a recommendation that Wiley as a space will be a school that captures the overflow, then they can redistrict. We're not asking them to redistrict. We're asking them to use that space to capture the overflow. That's very different than asking them to redistrict. I don't know what y'all are going to decide, but I'm just saying if the need if that's the need, we have $20 million and we have a space that we can remodel to capture the overflow. I don't know if y'all want to recommend that or don't want to recommend that.
I don't have a problem with that recommendation like I did with the class size recommendation.
Well, class size recommendation can be a negative recommendation, as in
Like,
not
I'm not
increase
trying to
class
argue
size.
negative or nothing. So I really am not trying to argue any particular, my kid, on the table, my kid is going to middle school. I don't have any more skin in the game at the elementary level. I just don't, you know? We might not even be in the school district depending on, you know, what we end up buying a house, right? So I am just asking y'all to, like, the thing we asked y'all to do, make a recommendation. So, and this, y'all can do this with homework. Y'all can do this like at the last meeting, but you have to be able to make a recommendation that we can put on the floor that everybody can either support or shoot down. But we can't say we don't have no recommendation at the K-5 based on K-5 needs. We could, technically you could say we don't have a recommendation based on K-5 and K-5 needs, but I just want everybody to be very clear that you probably won't get an opportunity like this again, financially, at least for another 10 years. So it's up to y'all. I'm just asking y'all to, like, if we don't want to do that, like, if you love the idea of a 6th grade center, right? I am not opposed to the idea of a 6th grade center. I am not opposed to keeping one. Like, but when it's time to vote, I gotta vote on something. So, but if you don't give me any options and you forcing me to vote for one option, I don't think that's fair either. And, you know, that's something that I would have to share with the board. Like, we only have one option to vote on, so that's what we voted on. And then what does that tell the board? Right? Because they're the ones who ultimately have to make the decision. So let's have some options.
So in terms of class size, because that has come up, and there are certainly ways to address class size at certain levels without adding staff. So you could consider increasing class sizes. Bear with me.
Yeah.
You want to know what I'm going to say? No.
Yeah.
You could increase class size at 4-5 and decrease class size at K-1, right? You could allocate it differently and look at that as a possibility. But again, without adding additional staff to just decrease across K-5. So we could look at a model where our recommendation.
You're talking about using the staff we already have. That's kind of tricky though.
It's extremely tricky.
Or it could just be a recommendation, and this is the cost benefit analysis. To do that recommendation, it's going to cost this, right? I feel like Ruth has been doing like tons of cost benefit analysis, and for distance 5 versus 6. So to do smaller class sizes, if we want to do that, we would need X amount of money, X amount of bodies, X amount of staff, X amount of, and then everybody can listen and say, I don't think that's a good idea. I think this might be a better idea. But you can't not tell people what the cost benefit analysis is for anything that y'all decide that y'all want to recommend by not even recommending anything. That's all I'm saying. Like, just figure out what you like, whichever one y'all like the most. Do the thing on the handout and just come up with a recommendation. It doesn't even have to be a recommendation that you personally will support, but it's going on the record, it's going in the official record of the school district that this is the recommendation that maybe future generations can look at, you know, and say, okay, well maybe we'll consider that.
Sounds like an exercise in playing devil's advocate.
Not necessarily. Like the last facilities committee recommended giving money to the high school to build an industrial wing. That is still something we have not done. So we need to figure out if we can use that money to build an industrial wing, but that doesn't address what to do with Wiley. So
one of the reasons I like the 6th grade center, not only does it address a pressing need in the district with 6th graders and for different people, but it would also free up operational money because you would be using basically the 6th grade staff and you'd save a great deal in operational costs, which could go towards improving class sizes and some of the other things that require hiring more people. Because that would come out of the education fund.
I agree with you, but that's their job to come up with that.
Right.
That's literally their job.
Well, I guess I thought at the end we're all going to be voting on the charge that we were all brought together to do, which has to do with what do we recommend Wiley become.
So we could recommend it becomes a school that captures the overflow from under-resourced schools. We can make that, because it says also at the end of everything, and others. That's not only.
Yeah, right.
But we can make that recommendation, and then we make an argument why we would make that recommendation. It would potentially increase academic outcomes, have more smaller classrooms, maybe it would address social emotional needs. It would address the class size issue, and it would ensure equitable enrollment. Like, it's not an exercise necessarily in devil's advocate. It's like, if we got money, like, put it in there, and 10 years later we get more money, because we get more money in 10 years, we can address that need. But we gotta capture the need, is what I keep saying. And they're going to do it. They're going to do that work. They're going to capture
But
the need.
I would support that, opening it up as a neighborhood school without serious redistricting. And if we redistrict, then we cannot ignore the population north of I-74 that's never had a neighborhood school. So I wouldn't support opening up
But
a
Peggy,
neighborhood
those
school.
guys are actually getting
And I
lost.
talked about that earlier.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I don't know what that's necessarily saying.
But I understand what you're saying, because I think that's fine, you don't have to support opening it as a neighborhood school, but we should have a recommendation of something to do with the school that involves it being an elementary school, and then there will be a sixth grade center, I'm assuming, from the middle school, you know. That'll be the recommendation, and then everybody ends up voting, and then you can vote however you want. But is that basically, like?
I'm going to recommend for high school, if we look at the old recommendation, do an industrial wing. Are y'all going to vote for that? Probably not. But is it a need that we can address with $20 million? For sure.
Or the parking project, which is also $20 million, by the way.
Yeah, I would love to solve the high school. You know, so I know this is frustrating for some of you, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you engaging in the exercise.
When do we have our meeting to come up with a recommendation?
You still going?
Any last words, Ben?
No.